All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Linebolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else, and what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and feature titan for episode 283, all the way from Newport Beach, California, none other than Kristin Halton. Now, Kristin, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
I can't wait to dive into this, Kristin. And again, just knowing your background and your expertise and knowledge base, it's incredible. And I know there's so many takeaways and thought processes that the audience is going to get today. So I just want to dive right into kind of the series of questions, really getting to know you as a person, a professional, and kind of your journey along the way that brings you to today. So without further ado, let's talk about, I guess, the origin story. So who you are, where you came from, what got you into the business, and kind of where you're at to today. Let's start with that, Kristin.
Okay, so I'm Kristin Halton. I live in Newport Beach, California. I'm married. I have 3 children. I have a 10-year-old Aspen, 14-year-old McKenna, and a stepson, Sean, who's 20. I moved to California approximately 23 years ago. I'm originally from Renton, Washington, born and raised, and went to school, grew up in Renton. And by the time I turned 18, I told myself, I do not want to stay here. I want to explore the world. So I went to college for a while, and when I came back home during summer, I was hired by a fitness company, and I had worked for this fitness company prior to me going off to college. And they said, "Hey, do you want to grand open these health clubs?" And I said, "Sure." Wow. And so I was really good at sales. I've always been told I was born a natural born salesperson.
Okay.
And so throughout the summer, I was opening up these fitness centers, and it was going so well. I was making a ton of money. I decided to stay, which my parents weren't happy about. And there was this whole chain of fitness centers that I would just go around and do the grand openings of all these health clubs.
Wow.
And from that, I started traveling around the United States. I worked for this company called the Fitness Marketing Group. I would go into a different city every 30 to 60 days. I would work with the owner of the company and show them how to run a promotion and make a lot of money for their company. And so I did that for a while, and traveling, being in a different city every 30, 60 days wore on me after a while. And I knew just from all the traveling that I did, I wanted to settle in a place that I absolutely loved.
Okay.
And so in my travels, I had come to Newport Beach, California. And I'd never been here before. I'd never heard of California. I've heard of it, but not Newport Beach.
Sure.
And I flew into the Orange County Airport and said, "Which way's the beach?" Drove down Jamboree onto Balboa Island, and literally drove to the end of Main Street, got out, looked around, and said, "This is where I want to live."
Wow.
So yeah, it was just like that. I knew immediately. And so at that time, I was helping out a fitness center in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went back, told them that I'm going to be moving in 30 days. And within 30 days, I had packed up everything and moved out to California to get my real estate license and sell real estate.
Okay, so I gotta ask you this, Kristin. And again, I love the way you're setting the foundation or the stage of your journey. And what was it when you landed and you really saw Newport Beach and just that California scenario got you excited about it? I mean, you've traveled all over, so can you think back to what it was where you're like, this is
a feeling.
Okay.
Like I have always been a dreamer. I've
Mm,
always had this extreme self-confidence that I can do anything and be anything.
love it.
And it's always inside of me. And when I remember so clearly looking around because I wanted to be in a place where I felt the magic, like I felt like this is it.
Wow.
And I immediately knew, immediately. And it just so happened that I had my mom's second cousin who
Okay.
I'd never met was a real estate agent. Her name was Karen Lynch,
Wow.
here in Newport Beach. And so my mom said, you should call Karen, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was put on the fast track. I literally got my real estate license within a month and I took a week crash course, and then during the week crash course studied, and then took my test and passed the first time, thank goodness.
Huge.
um, and I just jumped right in and started selling real estate.
What was it about real estate though? I mean, because your background, obviously looking at it from communication and people interaction, sales, um, what was your initial thought? Why real estate? Because there's so many different things you can do with communication and sales skills. So what was the initial spark, I guess, to that?
That's a really good question. It's kind of like how I found California. It was what I wanted to do. I've always loved, and it sounds so cheesy because I love architecture, and, but I've always loved homes.
Mm,
I've always been fascinated. To me, it's like art
mm,
to look at all the different homes and the different architecture and the different styles and the different tastes. I just have loved it and I've been passionate about it. And what I was doing before was more trading time for money, where
uh-huh.
in real estate, I felt like I wanted to do something where the sky was the limit. And
Mhm.
again, I was great at sales. And so it just seemed to be a natural fit. And the fact that I had a second cousin that was in the business and was a very successful at the time that I joined her team. She was the number one agent in Corona del Mar in Newport Beach, and
Wow.
she was an icon, really. So I learned from the best. I got lucky.
Well, but everything happens for a reason, and you put yourself in a position to really grow and scale that, obviously through mentorship, that is always a positive nature. So let's talk about that though, in your career from that point, Kristen, because anybody out there who is, engaged in Orange County, I mean, it's competitive everywhere into marketplaces, you could say, but it's very competitive in California and in Orange County. So what was your journey like? I mean, you got licensed, you have mentorship. Take us through kind of your milestones in your career as you learned and grew and, kind of experiences along the way.
Well, when I joined her team, because I was related to her, she wanted everyone on her team to be crystal clear that I wasn't going to get any favoritism.
Ooh, love it. Yes.
So I started literally at the bottom.
Mm,
Would cold call for 4 hours a day. She
wow.
would give me lists of people to call.
Mm,
I was the errand girl.
mhm.
I did all the things nobody else wanted to do. And I did that for a year straight, just calling every single day. And then on the weekends, I would do open houses. And
Mm,
we had so many, I would literally sit the open houses and pass the leads off to her buyer's agent. And I would get um, a little, like $1,000
yeah.
commission now when I look back, because I would get all these leads and hand them off to the buyer's agent. And then after doing that for about a year, then I started working with the buyers and going on listing appointments. So it was a progression where I started at the very bottom and then just worked my way up. And I think I was probably in year 3
Okay.
that I went out on my own and started my own team. So
Okay.
it was pretty quickly after 3 years of working with her that I, said I can do this myself, and so I parted ways
Mm.
and went out and started my own team.
And I want to jump into that too because I think it's crucially important. Anybody who's tuning in, looking at it from starting on a team, really learning and growing from the bottom, and
Mhm.
really working your way through the process. It's a fundamental, and to me, it's a true mentorship opportunity, an apprenticeship, if you will. as you kind of go through. And so many people, they go straight to doing their own thing and trying to figure it out along the way. And to me, it's so many great individuals have really started this way. And it's a huge recommendation going through. But at 3 years, Kristin, why 3 years? What was it at that time where you said, hey, you know what? I think I'm in a good place. Now's the time for me to start a team. Like what was going through your mind at that time?
I just wanted to do it myself.
Okay.
There
Okay.
wasn't really one moment where I'm like, I was just ready
Yeah.
and I knew that I could do it. And so I did.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. So then into that process, what was it like growing your team? What did that look like? Any perspective and any thoughts kind of
Yeah. So I started out with just an assistant and I thought, well, I am going to pay her to, do the running around.
Mhm.
So that I got a business coach. I think one of the critical things that I did is I've always had a business coach throughout my whole career.
Love
There
it.
may have been gaps here and there where I have not had a coach,
Mhm.
but I've always been guided in
Mhm.
that way. So my coach said, okay, we need to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. I knew very clearly what they were.
Wow.
And so we hired someone to to take care of my weaknesses and be able to like do the computer work, do the running around to free me up to do the big ticket items, which was talking to buyers and sellers and helping them.
Wow. Yeah. But as you're talking about that, and again, discussion early on in your career, identifying, looking for that guidance and perspective. And it takes a level of humility and understanding to look at oneself almost in the mirror and saying, hey, what are my strengths and weaknesses? And how can I really accentuate and improve upon my strengths? There's a lot of people that say, hey, identify your weaknesses and make them stronger. There are different schools of thoughts into that, but I find that to really double down on where you find your highest and best use, your superpower, and then look
Mm-hmm.
at it and say, hey, who can I bring on or tie together that loves doing those things that I don't necessarily enjoy, nor am I great at? And I think that that's really a team atmosphere and not a ego driven sort of thing. Like I can do it all. I don't need anyone. That's huge perspective. And again, early on in your career, which is massive into that, Kristen. So where do you go from there? What does it look like kind of going and growing? Because I mean, you've been in the business for 20 plus years. So
23.
yeah, so it's incredible to kind of see that journey. So where does it go from there?
So from there, I just, grew my team. I mean, over time, I've been doing this 23 years. So I started out with one person, then would add a second. And as the business grew, the team grew. At one point, I think the biggest my team got was, I think I had 14, 15 people at one time. And that was probably my peak during that time period. I remember we were building a house, we were building our second home.
Wow,
I just had my second child. I mean,
love it.
when I look back on the things that I did and we did during that time period, it's really unbelievable everything that we had going on, not only in my family, but in my business.
Mm,
And, I just continued to grow it over the years, continued to learn and continued to pour into the people on my team.
wow.
I've always loved, having a team and working with other people and helping them, tap their potential
Yeah.
and do their best and live their dreams. I'm very passionate about that. And I really love, helping not only people on my team, but my clients live their dreams through real estate.
Wow.
And yeah, that's what I did.
But that in and of itself, I mean, what an incredible journey, kind of leading up into today. I want to ask you, as you've kind of had time to think about and or, project what it's been like up to this point, as you were, kind of growing family and growing business and clientele, how did you find yourself as a person? I mean, because so many individuals and top tier professionals, there's levels of sacrifice and or there's shift in time. So what was your perspective kind of looking back on, family work balance or life balance? I mean, any takeaways or perspective into that you can share with the audience? I mean,
Well, that would be a whole other episode, but
fair enough.
which is what kind of brings us to today.
Yeah.
I would say during that time period, if you asked me what my priorities were, I would have told you family first, then work.
Mhm.
But what actually showed up and what my actions showed is that work was first. And I
Wow.
didn't realize it at the time, because I was so in it.
Yeah.
When you're growing a team and you're, producing 100 million a year, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And what brings me to today and where I'm at is we had a traumatic event that happened within my immediate family with one of my children. And excuse me. And that caused me, people will say, I will do anything for my children.
Mhm.
And I was put to the test. Something happened, and I had to decide in that moment what my priorities are and what is most important to me. And my family is what is most important to me. So I had to make some radical changes,
Okay.
and adjustments, and I was needed at home.
Mhm.
So I, over the last few years have been scaling back.
Okay.
I, cut my team. At first, I cut it in half. I think I had 8 people at the time. I cut it down to 5.
Okay.
And then about a year ago, I cut it down to 3 people. And it was intentional.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
What I do today is I have myself.
Mm.
I call us the stealth team.
Oh, I love it.
The A team, Gina Miramontes, who has been my right hand woman for the past 7-8 years,
Mhm.
is my director of operations, and she runs the team. And then I have Ashley Foreman, she's not just a buyer's agent, she's an agent, and I hand selected her out of all the people on my team.
Wow.
To me, with the 3 of us, we kill it, and we do an amazing job. People always said when I had this big team, they always wanted me. They always wanted to work with me.
Sure.
And like, and so now that's what they get. They get myself, Gina, and Ashley, and we're doing a great business right now. And I have more time with my family. And it's what I always wanted. It's what my heart always wanted. I just didn't know how to. I couldn't manage it all at the time. And when I had that, we'll call it a breakdown to the breakthrough.
Sure.
I had to adjust, and I did that.
And Kristen, thank you so much for kind of taking us down that road. And there's so many professionals that understand life and things that come at us unexpectedly. I think that a lot of times, as a driver and a high performing entrepreneur, there is prioritization unbeknownst to us where we're focusing so much time and effort. And when you take the time to step back and look at it, there's some thoughts to say, did I do what I thought I was doing, or spending time with who I thought I should be? And it's such a proverbial tug of war. And I don't know a single entrepreneur at a top tier level that has not experienced certain elements into their life to make them think. And unfortunately, some people, they never find out until it is too late. And
Right.
I think that life throws us certain instances. And if you're not comfortable, Kristen, I'm curious. I mean, and for the audience as well, if you wanted to share what happened specifically with family. If not, that's totally fine. This is completely candid in the conversation. This is live, right? So the reason why I ask is because that tends to paint the picture for the individuals that are tuning in as to what you went through, what you overcame, and obviously what you continue to go down the road with balance. So is that something you're comfortable sharing? as far as specifics
You
with
know, it's not my story to share, so I don't
Mhm.
want to get into the details of it, but
Totally fine.
it happened to be with I'll just say this. It was with one of my children,
Mhm.
and she needed me.
Okay.
And I yeah, she needed me. And it's interesting going back to what you said about, you know, when I was out there and I was working, I literally would start working at 7 in the morning and work till 7 every night. I had nannies, I had all the things.
Wow.
And I thought I was doing so great because, you
Mhm.
know, I would always say, I have it all, I'm doing it all. And I was.
Yeah.
But who needed me most was my family. You know, my girls, they were small kids, and I wasn't home. I was working, and I wasn't spending much time with them. And what I thought that I was doing is creating this beautiful life for my children,
Yeah.
because during that, you know, my husband and I had built 3 homes.
Mm.
In my mind, I just wanted to create this legacy, this empire, this I wanted this beautiful home to raise my family in.
Mhm.
I wanted all the things, and I thought that that's what was going to make our life great. And when it finally came down to it, and I was, you know, this situation happened,
Yeah.
all my kids ever wanted was my time,
Mm.
me. They just wanted me. They wanted me to be there. They wanted me to be the one to pick them up from school.
Mhm.
They wanted me to be the one to take them to the doctor,
Mm.
you know. And so it's been a big change. I was talking to my dad
Mm.
the other day. He knows, you know, everything that happened. And he
Yeah.
goes, well, what changed, Kristin? And I'm like, everything.
Wow.
Everything. I've changed everything. And, you know, it was hard. You know, I was in the top 1%. I was a top producer. I was all these things, and I still am in the same industry. I'm still, you know, doing the same thing.
Mm.
And, you know, I have scaled back.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard as on me, as someone who's extremely competitive
Yeah.
and wants to always be the best at
Mhm.
everything I do. It was hard, but you know, when I get quiet and I know I'm doing the right thing, and
Mhm.
I also know that I can do anything
Mhm.
and be anything. So anytime I want to increase my production and sell more houses, I know exactly what to do.
Right.
So right now, I'm with my family. I'm
Mm.
spending my time with my family. I'm in real estate. I work with the people that I want to work with. Honestly, I've never been happier personally,
Mm.
because now, before it was this big machine,
Yeah.
and now it's quality
Mm.
versus quantity.
Love that.
And all of my business is repeat or referral,
Mm.
all of it.
Mm.
I'm working with the clients that I want to work with,
Yeah.
that love me and appreciate me for what I do. And it's really what I worked so hard for my whole life.
Mm.
You know, even though it felt like in certain times, like I don't want to say loser, but
Sure.
I
Sure.
have felt that way.
Yeah.
But really, when I take the
Uh-huh.
ego hat off,
Mhm.
I'm really living the life I've always dreamed of.
You know, as you say that, Kristen, it's huge. True reflection based off of you being there, doing that, buying the t-shirt, and then some. You can really kind of look at it from a very different and unique perspective. Most people that are in it, they can't see until they take the time to pause. You've taken the time, you've reevaluated. To me, it's inspiring, and to look at it from a standpoint, it's never too late to reposition or rework what you do, how you do it, with who you do it with. I think that so many people think, oh, I'm already on a path. It's too late for me. I've got to just keep going down this road. It's a decision. And the fact that you are there and you're present to the individuals in your life, your family, your clients, your team, the ones that matter, and you're doing big things, that is the life by design. And that should inspire everybody who's tuning into this, is to saying there's different chapters in a life, and there's no right or wrong way. Ultimately, as long as you're happy and you're making others happy in that standpoint, that's really what it's all about. I had a good friend of mine tell me, and this was years ago, and this was having, a new family into myself, my first child when she was born. And it was one of the conversations where the little things in life end up being the biggest things.
Mhm.
And to me, that's such an interesting reflection. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have goals and hit the highest of highs in revenue and build an empire and a legacy financially. But you're right. I mean, I think everyone's kids want them to be there. They don't care. The kids, they don't, right? They just want your time. They want you to be present. So to find an ability and a capability, I think there's a new dream that's being forged. And in the past, it is about a certain segment and way, but I just love, I mean, the way that you describe that, Kristin, so honest and just such a beautiful example for people to really look at and reflect onto their life. Are they living the life that they initially thought this was going to be? And if not, what are you doing to change it? Every day is an opportunity. So I can't thank you enough for sharing some details into there and taking us
Yeah.
down this journey, Kristin. So I want to touch on this because you're doing massive things in real estate, but you have a newfound, kind of balance into the day. What if you could look back at your career, because you've seen so many things over the 23 years into the business? Anybody who's tuning into this, they're always wanting to learn from the Titans, and you've shared so many takeaways already. But if there was something that stood out to you through your time or your career or your life that really changed perspective or moved the needle for growth and development, what does that look like for you? What advice would you give anybody tuning in to help them along the way? Anything that pops in.
Well, if you're brand new in the business, I would say get on a team, get on a good team,
Mhm.
and get a business coach.
Sure.
Um, if because everybody is different, but if there's a person out there that's looking to actually build a team themselves and build an empire, I would say get on the team, get a coach, and then go out on your own as soon as you feel comfortable doing it.
Okay.
um, but I would say the biggest takeaway for me is right before my team, it depends on what your goals are, because if you want to leverage,
Mhm.
the more people you have on your team, the bigger it is, the more leverage you have.
Mhm.
So there's that, right? Do you want to be number one from that sense, or is it more? Do you want to make more money?
Mhm.
Because what I found, a lot of the agents out there that are number one,
Mhm.
their bottom line
Oof.
may not be as much as the agent over here, who has maybe 4 or 5 people on her team. I think that's my biggest takeaway,
Oh yeah.
because for me, the bigger I got, the more you're getting influenced by, oh, well, now you need this, and now you need that, and you need this system, and you need to, and then I hired a new director of operations, and she was like, okay, so what happened is
Mm.
I went from, a smaller stealth team to really big, really quick. But then I had this big, massive machine that
Wow.
I had to fuel
Mm.
and the bottom line got smaller.
Right.
So I would just say, really look at that.
Mm.
If you're, really, and I think too, for me, I started to trust other people
Okay.
more than myself,
Aha.
because I always knew what worked for me.
Mhm.
And I was very successful and did very well. But I started listening to other people, and doing everything rather than staying with my niche of, okay, here are the 4 or 5 things I do to produce. I started doing like 10 things, and then it just got to be too much,
Wow.
you know?
Mm.
So I would say be careful with that, but figure out what those 4 or 5 things are early on, whether it be open houses, cold calling, networking, farming. Figure out what those things are and stick with those things.
Wow.
It's like a garden. You have to tend your garden. You got to weed the garden. You got to water it,
Mm.
and your life will become beyond your wildest dreams. I mean, real estate, selling real estate in this business can give you everything you wanted and more.
Wow. But the way that you had stated that, it's brilliant in nature. I mean, yeah, obviously identifying your goals and who you are and, kind of what your intentionality is crucial. And then kind of reverse engineer that. There, you and I both know this, and the audience does as well. There's a lot of individual producers and mega teams and/or, brokerages that are putting up numbers, but you're right. There's a big difference between top line and bottom line revenue, what you make versus what you keep. I think that there's a lot of jockeying for position. There's ego part of that. Build this thing the way you want to build it. And I think
Yes.
that is such a massive takeaway. There's so much pressure, and I don't want to say keeping up with the Joneses sort of mentality, but I mean, let's be real here. I mean,
Oh, it's there. I was in it. I
I
was,
mean,
yeah,
it
I
it
was definitely
happens. It happens.
in it.
For sure. But
Yes.
I love the fact that you're just mentioning so many of these things in such a true light, but identifying, kind of your highest and best. And I mean, Kristen, this is a perfect example of a true professional who is honest and has that characteristics of integrity and really does care that you're sharing this information. Again, it's just reflection off of what you've done into your life and into your world. And that's why I love having these conversations with people such as yourself, because it's just wonderful to see how that unfolds. Any other thoughts that come to mind as we're going down this road? Any takeaways? Anything you want to kind of finish this up with? Before we're done here.
Um, I would just say for me, going through this transition over the last couple of years,
Mhm.
I've really learned so much more about myself.
Mm.
I used to be so busy every single day. I mean, I would have my day planned down to the minute.
Wow.
Uh, from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, it's still that way,
Sure.
but I don't have as many things packed in my day.
Got it.
Uh, and so for me, really have a good um, foundation and plan for yourself.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that, my recipe
Mm.
for success is getting up early every single morning, doing my prayer, doing my meditation, spending time by myself. I usually spend anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes,
I love
really getting clear about what I want
it.
and why and how I want to show up that day, and having all of my actions align with my goals and my purpose.
Mm.
So I would say if there's anything, any takeaway is to continue to be true to yourself, turn inward, and really listen to what's inside of you, because we all have what's inside of us, and what's inside of us is our compass to live the best life.
Mm.
And that would just continue to take care of yourself, take care of your mind, body, and spirit.
Mm.
When I was, at the height, I always took time for myself. I have my whole life. I had mentioned to you, I got sober in 2003.
Mhm.
And so that would be 20 years.
Yeah.
I have not been sober 20 years.
Mm.
I have been sober probably 17 and a half out of the 20 years. I've taken a couple detours along the way.
Sure.
But going through getting sober taught me a lot of life skills.
Mm.
And that has been huge in my life.
Wow.
But really being true to yourself, because when you are your true authentic self, um, that allows other people to be who they're supposed to be in this world. And yeah, I'd say that's my biggest my advice that I could give to anyone watching today.
Oh my gosh, Kristen. And what incredible perspective into that. And again, talking about health and holistic nature, balance, and to really, build that day out for you and for the best uses of what you're talking about. And I think that capping with the authenticity, what a beautiful thing for you to say that, for each of us to really reflect on, to be our best version of ourselves and most authentic version, and not to try to position for someone or a group of individuals. And the way that you made me think, and hopefully the audience feels this way too, is by representing that for yourself, it's encouraging others to do the same, and we can all be with one another. I mean, there's no pressure from that to be and act a certain way. And what a beautiful world this would be if everybody took that to heart. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But I wish more and more people would understand exactly what you just said and live that life. Boy, that would be incredible. And I know there's a lot in the audience that are going to take that, myself included. Big stuff here, Kristen. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. Absolutely incredible. Just your story, your journey, and all the advice that you've given throughout this episode. I do have to title this and give you the official Real Estate Titan dubbing. So you are an official Titan. No one can take that away from you ever, Kristen. That is yours forever. It's a badge of honor, as I say. There's no trophies or plaques, but it is yours to keep and to share with others. So again, Kristen, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. It was incredible today, for sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your podcast. And I will take the Real Estate Titans. I appreciate the title.
Oh, it's yours, Kristen. It truly is an honor and a pleasure. Absolute blast hanging out with you. I can't thank you enough again. And everybody out there, I have to thank you, as always, for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like hearing what we're doing with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like, subscribe. You know what to do at this point, but I have to say it anyway. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are a real estate professional looking to grow and scale your business with leading edge digital marketing, visit lionboltmedia.com. We are live here every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.